I'm going to continue. You can just tell them sorry for the 3-minute delay. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Business Partner webinar. Sorry for the 3-minute delay. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I am Tay Lee. I'm the Partner Account Manager, and I'll be looking after your profile with Netcash. I'm very excited to work with you going forward, so I hope that we can build a meaningful relationship. And if I've not been in touch already, I will definitely be in touch over the next few weeks as we need to touch base as well as sign the new rebate partner agreement. So as you see, I've shared my screen with you, and basically I'm just going to give you an overview of the program shortly before we get to Jerry. So just to give you an overview, the rebate program has shifted from a fixed fee to a percentage-based rebate, and we will pay 15% of the invoiced amount for 12 months. So this means that for every client that you refer and they are actively processing with us, we will pay you 15% of that invoice. So even if you've pitched salary payments to the client to start with that, we make cross-sell during that 12 months, and then you will benefit from that total invoiced amount. So moving on to the referrals, we would need you to refer 10 clients per year, and those clients, or 5 of those clients, would need to convert to active and processing accounts. So who can you refer? It's basically anyone with a business, whether it is a client, a friend, a family member. All businesses process inbound and outbound payments. So the chances of you processing with a bank is high. So why not refer them to Netcash and also benefit in the process by offering them this convenient and effective service. Lastly, we'd like to just go over the clients that we activate. We basically just need an introduction. So since you are already the trusted and your client would feel slightly more at ease when you refer a trusted service provider, the introduction is very important. So just to give you an idea, I spoke to someone the other day and just mentioned their active accounts, and I asked them how they introduce Netcash, and they said, well, they use Netcash. They just introduce it like this. I use Netcash myself. I have happy clients using it, and it works really well. So it's a good fit for your business. And in a nutshell, the introduction does really make a difference when you do speak to your clients, because you're basically giving them, you're giving them the platform. You're saying, this is the service provider. This is how it would make your life easier at the end of the day. And it's also it's much more cost effective at the end of the day, because we are much cheaper than the banks. So it really does matter how you do represent it and also introduce it to your clients at the end of the day. Okay, so that's all from my side. I hope this was helpful. I will be in touch with you over the next couple of days, and we can have a one-on-one chat. I'm going to hand over to Jerry. He's our learning and development specialist, and he will take you through our services. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to just type it out in the comment box on the chat, and we will then answer you in a private message.
That's great. Thanks, Taylor. So I'm just getting myself organized here, folks. Just give me 1 second while I get my presentation up. Yes, hi. Sorry, while I'm getting organized here, I just need to go and find my presentation, and I can cue this up. Give me 1 second. Sorry, it's all the joys of technology. I'm just getting this organized. Okay, so guys, just that you are aware, those of you who might be on Teams as a live event for the first time, just so that you are aware, using live event, there is sometimes a 15 to 20 second delay between what you were hearing and the time that I'm actually saying it. It's just the way that the technology behind a live event works. So if you are thinking that there is a little bit of a delay, that's because it is sometimes. So just be aware of that fact. But I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome you today to this webinar, which is going to give you sorry a bit more of a detail in terms of the services that we offer. Many of you may be aware of Netcash, you may be aware of who we are, what our background is, but I'm going to take the opportunity, and I'd like to thank you all for joining, whether you have a long-standing association with Netcash, or whether you have a new relationship with us. I would like to just give you a brief overview of the company, where we come from, what our background is, and then I'm going to have a look at our services. Again, it's going to really be a helicopter view, just to give you an understanding of the nature of our business, what it is that we do, and hopefully, if you've got any questions, you can make use of the Q&A mechanism that is in live event. We have got Taylor and Candice who are assisting as moderators, so they'll be able to assist you in terms of answering any questions which they can hear immediately. But any additional questions where you may think of stuff later on, you can contact us and we'd be happy to answer any particular questions or queries that you may have. So with no further delay, let's get on and talk a little bit about Netcash. And Netcash, so where do we come from? As I said earlier on, many of you guys will know the name Netcash. But when did we start? Well, going back to 2001, that was when Netcash started. And since 2001, we've grown to be a major third-party payment provider in the industry. Now, you may recall that some years ago, we were acquired by Softline, and ultimately we were rebranded as SagePay when Sage did all of its major rebranding. So it rebranded from Softline, became Sage, and within that stable of companies, we became SagePay. Now, being a part of the Sage group for many years has allowed us to effectively integrate our services with a number of Sage products, which we're going to look at in a couple of minutes. And we have that relationship with Sage so that we have been able to effectively integrate and innovate in terms of how we can, as I said, integrate our products with theirs, making effective use of the services which we provide. Ultimately, though, SagePay we decided to control our own destiny and recently moved away from Sage, rebranding back to Netcash. Now, you may ask, well, why Netcash again? Why didn't you come up with some other name? Well, I think when something works, you stick to it. In our case, Netcash was already a well-established brand. Over the years, although we were selling products as SagePay under the Sage stable for a long period, many times people come to us and say, oh, weren't you Netcash? And when we said, yes, we were Netcash, they would immediately know who we were and were quite happy to make use of our product. So from that perspective, it made sense to just keep with the Netcash branding because it was something which worked. So that's Netcash. That is where we come from, who we were. And so we're now going to have a look at the products which we have to offer. And again, I'm going to do this at a fairly high level. The diagram I'm putting on the screen now is perhaps a little bit stylistic, but it's intended just to give you an idea of what it is that we do. So going back to 2001, when we started, we began with providing, as a third-party payment provider, debit order collections, and we still do debit order collections. So if you look at the left of the screen, you'll see debit order collections. We're talking about incoming payments. We're collecting money. We process debit orders. We compete with other payment providers in the industry. We also compete with the banks. And for many years, not only do we offer a debit order collection service, which is cost effective, but it also is probably one of the leaders in the industry in terms of how we manage our risk profiles, how we manage our retentions with our customers. And so from a debit order collection point of view, again, we are one of the leaders in the industry. The other, from an incoming payments perspective, we offer online facilities such as a payment gateway. So if you've got a you're running a shopping cart via your website, you want to take payments online using credit cards, EFTs, QR codes, we offer that as well. And within that stable of products, which we refer to as our Pay Now solution, because although we call it Pay Now and we sort of give the impression that it's just one particular product, our Pay Now solutions offer a range of options for how you can take payment across the internet. So I've just mentioned our Pay Now gateway, which if you have a shopping cart and you want to take payment from your website, you can use our gateway. But we also have Pay Now Invoice. Pay Now Invoice, which we'll see in a minute when we look at Pastel Partner, how we can send an invoice to somebody and placing at the foot of that invoice the various mechanisms to take payment across the internet. We allow them to make payment when they receive the invoice in their via email. We also offer a service called Pay Now Request. Pay Now Request, well, that is one of those services where if somebody has not got a web presence, in other words, they don't have a website, they're not going to be sending out invoices, how can they take payments? Ease of payment. Our Pay Now Request service certainly is an innovation which is becoming increasingly more useful to somebody who, as I said, has not got a web presence but needs to take payment across the internet. So that's on a collection, from a collection point of view, but also on the other side, where money is going out, we have integrated services, and not just integrated services. I'd like to just take this opportunity just to point out that when it comes to referrals, and Taylor mentioned this a few minutes ago, when it comes to referrals and sending the referring your potential customers or our potential customers, referring them to us, please don't think that the people that you're going to refer to us need to have integration in some way. Not at all. You can make use of our products, whether they're integrated or whether they aren't. You can make use of our products to do debit orders, to do our Pay Now Solutions products, and also to do salary payments and creditor payments. So if somebody wants to pay their salaries, they don't have to be using Pastel Payroll, for example. They can still use our salary payment service directly from their Netcash account. The same thing with creditor payments. If they want to do that, they can just do their payments directly from their Netcash account. However, again, those particular products are integrated with a range of Sage products and with products which have been provided by a number of ISVs, just to make it easier to process those transactions. So in a nutshell, we offer money in and we offer the ability to send payments out. And the whole idea is that you can make use of your Netcash account almost, and I use this lightly because sometimes it's taken in out of context, but almost like a bank account. And I say almost, I'm stressing almost, because I know a lot of people are going, oh, it's a bank account. It's not, but you can imagine, you can process your debit orders, money can come into your Netcash account. You don't have to release that money out of your Netcash account. You can then, from your Netcash account, make payment of your salaries. So the whole idea is that you have incoming payments, they come into Netcash. You can process those transactions, they come in. Outgoing payments, you can pay your salaries, you can pay your creditors, and any balance that is in your Netcash account, we do pay interest on a credit balance. So that's a very high level overview of the services that we offer. And I ask, please, that if you've got any questions about those particular services, feel free to contact Taylor. Taylor is there to be able to answer any questions which you may have about processing debit orders, about how to make use of Pay Now Invoice, how to integrate your various products. But it's important to point out that, as I said, we are integrated with all of these Sage products which you see on the screen at one level or another. So you've got Sage Business Cloud Payroll, Sage Pastel Payroll, and I'm sure being business partners, you are familiar with those particular products. So there's no need to go into anything specific. Each of you have, have worked with those products over the years. But again, the way in which we integrate with those products is really very easy and it's very neat and tidy. You'll see in a minute when I go to Pastel Payroll and I go to Pastel Partner to give you an example of how we integrate, that there is no complicated integration. I know over the years, speaking to business partners, there's almost been a reluctance. Yeah, integration. Well, yeah, that's always technical issues. Not when it comes to our integration with Sage, and in fact, not when it comes to our integration to anybody that makes use of integration with Sage. So on the screen now, you'll see there's a whole host of Pascal products, or let me correct myself, there's a whole range of Sage products which we integrate with. But we don't just integrate with Sage products. So if you've got customers also that want to integrate with us, have a look. When you go onto our website, there's just an example of some of the ISVs that make use of integration with Sage. And our integration, we have an integration specialist. So anybody that is interested in integrating with us, they can speak to our technical department, they can speak to our integration specialist, and they can point them in the right direction. So you may have people that you know that want to make use of our services. They don't have to be using Sage products. They don't have to be integrated with us. If you give us the contact details, and Teddy made this point a couple of minutes ago, we're not expecting you to close the deal. We're not expecting you to sell Netcash to them. We just need their contact details. We need their name, and we will contact them because effectively, we know how to sell our products. What we want to leverage off, of course, is the fact that they have a relationship with you. So because you're referring them to us, you're going to benefit from the referral, but we are going to benefit from the fact that you're giving us access to customers that we may not have ever known were out there. But the reason I'm stressing this is to say to you, please, we have not just the products which I've shown you on the earlier screen, we also are able to integrate through a host of mechanisms, and all of our integration is the same. So we have a standard method of integration, and we have technical documents which we can give to your customers, and our technical specialists will be able to ensure that they are able to integrate very smoothly and easily. Okay, so to give you an idea of how we integrate, and going back, if you have a look, there are a whole range of these products. So from a payroll perspective, we've got Pascal Payroll. We also have 300 people. Now, 300 people is a very big payroll package, whereas if we go down to Business Cloud Payroll, a very small package. But the integration which takes place is identical in terms of how the technical logic works. So let's go and have a look at our Pascal Payroll, and I'm going to go through the steps in how we process, not to process the payroll, but how we send the content from Pascal Payroll to be processed by Netcash so that employees can receive their salaries. I'm using Pascal Payroll because it was one of the early ones that we integrated with, but the mechanism by which the integration takes place is exactly the same, whether it's 300 people, whether it's Pascal Payroll or whether it's Business Cloud Payroll, all of that works exactly the same way. So let's have a look. Those of you who work with Pascal Payroll are familiar with the screen that you're seeing now, and what I want to explain to you is how we do our integration. So go to Pascal Payroll, we're going to go to Sage Connected Services. It's right there. You don't have to go and look for it anywhere in the system. It's right there on the menu, Sage Connected Services. And it pops up on the screen, Sage Connected Services, where you are now required to insert what we refer to as a service key. Essentially, it's a GUID. You go and take that service key, highlighting now salary payments, and you'd go to your Netcash account. Go to your Netcash account and go and select the specific service, the salary payments in the example that I'm showing you now, and you'll go and copy that service key, and that service key is going to be popped into your salary payment service key in Pascal Payroll. And you do that for your account services and risk reports if you're going to be making use of those services. And that's it. Once it's in there, it's done. That's how simple any integration is with Netcash. So whether you're doing something like Evolution, or whether you're doing 300 people, whether you're doing any of the VIP products, that is the integration. That's all you do, is you take the service key and you pop it into the respective field. Integration done. Now, the only other thing that you probably need to do, depending on the product, is just make sure that the specific employee is designated to be paid through the particular mechanism. In the case here, we have an employee and we're selecting the payment method as bank transfer as opposed to cash or check. And that's it. Done, good to go. So what happens now? Pascal Payroll, how are we going to process that batch? So in Pascal Payroll, of course, you go and do your payroll run. And having done your payroll run, you now need to pay your employees. How are you going to get that file to Netcash? Well, go and select check bank transfers. And those of you that are currently using this particular system to using the bank to make payment, well, you can finish doing that immediately because you can now go and use Netcash instead. So you go and select checks, bank transfers, and screen which you're all familiar with if you are making payments through this mechanism already. And in this case, instead of selecting bank transfer, you're going to select Netcash salary payments, go and select the employees that you want to pay. And that's it. From here, you can now go next, or rather, my apologies, you're going to select the date that you want your batch to run. So you're going to set your batch up. This is the action date that you want the transactions to be paid. And having done that, we say next. And here we have integrated into Pascal Payroll via an iframe. So if you want to do it that way, what you can do is when you go and say next, the iframe is going to pop up from within Pascal Payroll. You're not even going to need to go out of the account and into your Netcash account. You're simply going to go select your salaries in this particular instance, and you'll see the salary batch has been sent to Netcash, so that from within your Pascal Payroll via the iframe, you can go and authorize your batch immediately. It makes life so much simpler. You can imagine the whole idea is to save time. Sure, we are our transactions, our pricing is very cost effective. We are extremely competitive, but it's not always about pricing. It's about how much time can we save. And if you think about what's happening here, all we've done is we've said, go and pay Netcash. We push the button, the file has been sent to Netcash, and it's sitting there literally instantly waiting authorization. Now, when you look at, and I've just gone into the Netcash account here to show you the equivalent. There's your Netcash account. If you went in, you could go and log in if you prefer. You could go and authorize your batch via Netcash, or you can do it via the iframe. So we've now sent the file to Netcash. Yeah. I know some of you are already asking the question, well, what's the benefit? Why should we do that? You know, we're already doing it via the bank. Why should we use Netcash? And whenever I get asked that question, the first thing I'm going to say is from a security perspective. Why? Because when the file is sent from Pascal Payroll or any of our integrated products, when that file is sent, it is sent via an encrypted file directly to Netcash. It doesn't sit anywhere else where it can be accessed, where it can be fiddled with. For example, if you're using one of the banking transfer mechanisms via Pascal Payroll, what's the process? The process is you go to bank transfer, you select one of the bank templates, and you say pay, and what happens? That particular file now sits in, to all intents and purposes, a text file on your desktop awaiting upload. Now, the security risks behind that should be immediately evident. And again, people are going, yeah, but where's the security? Yes, it's a text file on my desk. You know, I used to think that when we first started the integration, and we used to say, oh, there's security because who in fact can access a text file sitting on somebody's desktop? You know, over the years, I've discovered, having spoken to many, both Pascal trainers and VIP payroll trainers, that actually is a real risk. What happens in practice sometimes is that somebody now generates the payroll. It sits as a text file on somebody's desk, and he's now going to upload it to the bank. In the meantime, something terrible happens down on the factory floor. Somebody gets run over by the forklift. He goes out of the office and somebody comes wandering past and says, oh, there's the salary file, opens it in Notepad, makes a few changes, closes the salary file. It then gets processed, and the extra 50,000 Rand is only picked up next month when the reconciliations are done. Meanwhile, this person's already left the company and the company is out of pocket. Now, if you don't think that can happen, as I thought, I discovered over the years it's actually a very real risk. So I'm using that long-winded story to say that the fact is, by using Netcash, you were able to send a file securely to us with no risk of anybody being able to fiddle with that file. And in order to improve our security, what we do is you have the option, again, it's an option, when the file is sent to us, and I'm just illustrating this by highlighting a particular feature on the Netcash account. You'll see I've highlighted there, it says lock batch on upload. What does that do? Well, when the file is sent from Pascal Payroll and it's sent to your Netcash account, what happens is the file is then immediately locked. So nobody can get into your Netcash account and go and fiddle with the particular details of those transactions. If any changes need to be done, that file can be deleted, but then any changes would need to be made in Pascal Payroll again, and that file would have to be resent to Netcash. So the lock batch on upload is a very important security feature. So in addition to that, of course, we have multiple levels of authorizers. So although you saw the authorize button there and you think, well, only one person can authorize it, you can have as many authorizers as you like. 2 is probably the best way to go, although you could have more. How practical that would be, I don't know, but we do have the functionality which does allow that. And in addition to that, we also have a one-time PIN to authorize the batch as authentication. And over and above that, one-time PINs can sometimes be, especially approaching cutoff time when the service provider has got problems, one-time PINs, there can be a delay through no fault of our own. So we have also recently enabled two-factor authentication, which is very handy where somebody needs to authorize a batch. They're sitting overseas and they need to authorize a batch, and obviously they're not going to receive the one-time PIN via SMS. You can make use of two-factor authentication, which will enable somebody who's sitting in downtown Toowoomba slugging down a Forex to authorize his batch while he's not in South Africa. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of those features which you can use from Pascal Payroll, but that functionality is available in a range of other products, and not just through integration with those Sage products. As I said, there are other service providers that do provide that type of integration. Additional features, let's go and look at Pascal Partner. And again, I'm using Pascal Partner as an example, but the functionality that you're about to see here also exists within other integrated Sage products. So Pascal Partner, the first thing I'm going to look at is how to do supplier payments. And you're going to see that the idea behind supplier payments is exactly the same as you've seen with regard to making use of salary payments via Pascal Payroll. The principles are the same. The file is going to get sent through to Netcash. It's going to be a secure file, no problems at all. Let's go and have a look. So we're in Pascal Payroll. As I showed you earlier on, just if nobody believes me, I'm going to show you again, Sage Connected Services. Here we go. Exactly the same. We're going to go and put in our service keys. So in this case here, we can go and put in our account service keys, our Pay Now service key, which is a product which allows you to integrate your invoices, which are sent to your customer via Pascal Partner. And at the bottom, we also have your creditor payments, which are our supplier payments, which we're going to look at in a minute. And then if you're doing supply payments, obviously you'd like to, or more than likely, associate a specific cash book with those supply payments. You can now go and create your own cash book for supply payments and associated with that cash book in the system. All right, so how do we do supplier payments from Pascal Partner? Well, it's quite straightforward, really. Similar to Pascal Payroll, where we had checks and bank transfers. Here we're going to go to the Netcash Payments Assistant, leaving nothing to chance. We say specifically Netcash Payments Assistant, and we do that via the cash book. And having gone into our Payments Assistant, we can now go and select the range of invoices that we want to pay. We can go and say, okay, here's our invoices. We go and select those. And what happens is then it pulls up onto the screen those invoices from the various suppliers which we want to, which are available for us to pay. Now, in the case of my example, I do apologize for only having one transaction. I do have Pascal Partner on my system, but I don't keep a set of books, so I just have these examples. But what you would see there is if you had more than one supplier which needs paying, they're all going to appear on the screen. And if there's going to be more than one invoice per supplier, those are all going to reflect on that particular screen. You can go and make changes to the amount that you're going to pay. So there you saw the amount of 2,165 being payable to this particular supplier. I can go and change that to 100 Rand. And that is the amount which is now going to get sent through to Netcash for payment. Having done that, it tells you, gives you a warning as to say you've already paid these. Are you sure you want to do this? And you, yes, I'm 100% sure. And from there we can go and say, right, process the transaction. Now, in the case of Pascal Partner, they have not yet integrated an iframe, but what will happen is when you say yes that you want to go and authorize the batch, it will take you straight through to your Netcash account, so you can go and log into your Netcash account and go and authorize the batch. And that's it. That's supplier payments, as easy as that. Okay. What other services integrated with Pascal Partner? Pascal Partner and other Sage products and other integrated service providers. Well, in this case, we enable Pascal Partner to send an invoice to the customer, the PDF invoice, which is built into the system anyway. Obviously, everybody using Pascal Partner is emailing, or they are emailing invoices to their customer. What we're doing is we're just adding something at the footer, or on the footer rather, of the invoice to enable the customer to make payment quicker. So those of you familiar with Pascal Partner will see there's our invoice that we can generate. So we generate that invoice. The invoice is sent to the customer. The customer then opens the PDF document up from their email, and they presented with this particular invoice showing at the footer. And I've just taken the footer. I haven't shown the whole invoice. Obviously, an invoice is an invoice. But here at the bottom of the invoice are a range of options which are presented to the customer. Now, you're thinking to yourselves, what's the value in that? Well, the value in that is that when the customer opens up the invoice and he is presented with an opportunity to pay, if he's got the opportunity, there's always a chance that he is going to make payment to you simply because he's presented with options there and then. Okay, so in this case now you can see we have a barcode. That S code is a code which can be scanned at the money market counter at any one of a number of retail outlets. OK Furniture, USafe Store, ShopRite, Checkers, even Estate Post Office. Anybody tells me where there's a post office, I'd be interested to know. And House and Home, just by way of examples. So they can now take that invoice to the money market counter and they can make payment for that invoice there. On the left of the screen, you'll see that we allow the customer to make an EFT payment. So he can make use of that particular service that we have there, where we have got making use of Mercantile Bank using dedicated accounts. So without going into details, what the benefit of using dedicated accounts as we have it set up in Netcash is that the customer now, when this particular customer makes payment for this invoice using that Mercantile Bank account, what will happen is the money will appear directly in their Netcash account with no problems of it being misdirected because they put the wrong reference on the system. And that's what's happened in the past, where sometimes where the customers put the wrong reference on the account, when the transaction has been processed, it's come into Netcash, Unfortunately, it's had to sit in suspense for a while we figure out who it was that actually sent the money. But we've recently introduced the dedicated accounts, which eliminates that problem. In addition to which, if you click on your the Netcash logo, that's going to take you through to our gateway, where you're going to be presented with a number of options through which the customer can make payment. So, but why do this again? Is there a benefit? And increasingly more, yes, there is. And the benefit is this, that the way business works nowadays is that if we present somebody with more options to pay, we better the chances that they will actually take advantage of those options and pay us quicker. So if we didn't have these options on the foot of the invoice, what will happen is that the customer would print out the invoice, put it in the tray and say, I'm going to pay it at the end of the month. Now he opens up the invoice and he looks at that invoice and he says, oh, well, here's the thing. Month end is always such chaos and I'm going to take advantage of the discount now. I'm going to pay this particular person. I'm going to go and click on the Netcash account or the Netcash logo, and I'm going to go and pay them immediately. So that's the rationale behind making use of our invoice system, is give the customer the option and the chances are that he will pay you quicker. And making use of our services that come straight into your Netcash account, and you are the one that's going to benefit by having your customer paying you quicker. So I mentioned earlier on the Netcash logo. So what happens, he clicks on the Netcash logo, he gets taken through online to our Pay Now gateway. You see on the gateway, there are various options for payment. You can pay by credit card, you could pay by bank EFT, you could also make use of instant EFT. Instant EFT is really becoming increasingly more popular. A lot of people making use of instant EFT, where literally he doesn't have to go to the hassle, should I say, of going into his bank account and going to put in the bank details and then making payment. He simply makes use of instant EFT. That instant EFT allows him to put in his bank details. He goes straight into his bank details, chooses the account he wants to pay from, and the money is taken from his account and into SagePay. We also offer QR code payments. We're going to be looking at that in more detail with a webinar with QR code payments and scan to pay in the future. But the whole idea is there are options. It's all about options, and if you've got options, you're probably going to pay quicker. Okay. So the next thing I want to look at in closing with regard to an overview of these particular services is, and since we're looking at Pastoral Partner, is Pastoral Partner makes use of a module which is called Bank Manager. Now, just to be clear, Bank Manager is not a Netcash product. It's part of Pastoral Partner. It's also used in Evolution. Those of you that are making use of it know how it works already, but I'm just using it to emphasize the benefits of your customers making use of a Netcash account and how they can bring their statement information directly into Pastoral Partner using Bank Manager. So we are also integrated with Bank Manager. The one thing though that we are better at than the banks in the current integration is that we have what's called Netcash feeds. So essentially, if you select Netcash feeds, every time you go into Bank Manager, it just goes automatically and picks up the details from your Netcash statement and brings it into Bank Manager. But in addition to which, if you want to do that, upload the file manually, you can download your CSV statement from Netcash, download it from Netcash, and you can upload it directly into Bank Manager if that's a mechanism which you prefer. So you can see here, I'm using the system of uploading the file. I'm selecting the statement provider as Netcash. I've downloaded my CSV file from Netcash. I say, okay, let's upload it. And there we go. Those transactions are pulled into Bank Manager. And in Pastoral Partner, if payment has been made via an invoice and somebody has paid you via EFT or credit card, what it'll do is it's going to automatically go and allocate the customer's account number to the correct account field in Bank Manager. So in the example there, you'll see what's happening is that you would normally have to go and find, using customer, supplier, or general ledger dropdown, you'd have to go and find the customer's account number and do that manually. But in the case of our invoice product, it will automatically allocate, if they pay by credit card or EFT, it will automatically allocate the customer's number. So if you've got 50 transactions where somebody has paid you via the invoice, what will happen is that you don't have to go and allocate those particular account numbers within Bank Manager. Okay, and I'd like to also just emphasize the fact that using Bank Manager and using Netcash, it is a very useful method for importing the details for your debit orders. For example, if you're processing debit orders, you need to get that information back into your cash book. Using Pastel Partner and using Bank Manager, you can go and set up mapping if you're not familiar with that. Pastel Partner does have a very extensive tool to explain to you exactly how the mapping works. But using mapping allows you, if you've got 1,000 debit orders and you've got to go and manually allocate those in the cash book every single month, it can be somewhat time consuming. But if you use mapping, then you are able to quickly pull those transactions into your cash book, saving you a lot of time. Now, the other thing I'd like to emphasize also, talking about debit orders, is that with the Netcash system, let me just back up. Let me say this. Using Pastel Partner as an example, currently there is no integration directly, like we have our salary and supply payments. There's direct integration in terms of being able to send the file directly to Netcash. Currently, there's no integration from Pastel Partner. There's no direct integration from Evolution. However, if you have got the understanding of Pastel Partner to be able to export your debit order details into an Excel spreadsheet, for example, Netcash includes a system whereby you can upload those details directly into your Netcash account and process your debit orders that way. So we have, from within the Netcash account, we have a system to create a template and upload the file, and it is free of charge. If you prefer a standalone desktop application, we also have that which you can download from Netcash and upload your debit order file directly into your Netcash account for processing. Now, having done that, you will then be able to go and use Bank Manager to easily bring your transactions back into the accounting system. I want to just point something out here, that where you're using a product, and I'm just using it by way of example. I know we're talking about Pastel Partner, but you can see the way in which our integration works. Our statement, the Netcash statement, has been designed in order to be able to pass information through to what we refer to as extra fields. And if you pass information through to those extra fields from an integration